It's interesting too that you say just a million views. I mean, that is almost impossible to
Right.
get these days. So going back to writing or creating something that you think the audience wants, you were just doing this because you wanted to get people to know about.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
a million is still, I mean, that's
I know it's
very
huge.
difficult,
No,
especially today.
it's absolutely huge. I think it has to do with what's behind the thing. Well, it doesn't really matter because it's so random. I like to think that if the thing that you're making has real meaning or has real meaning beyond like, I just want it to be successful. Like there are plenty of people who make shit that just want to be rich and famous. And then there are other people who make things that there's another reason behind it. There's something real behind it that hopefully like the truth will out, that somehow that will smell like the real thing, and people will, and talking from a web-based thing, that maybe people will be attracted to that thing because it's real as opposed to a pose. But that's not necessarily true because there's plenty of stupid, insignificant shit that has trillions of hits. So I mean that's my, that's me wanting some sort of justice in the universe or some sort of rationale. But I do think in the case of the Cat House on the Kings, I think people did respond to like the sincerity of that place. It's like Linus talking about the sincerity of the pumpkin patch. There's something sincere, so no bullshit. Just like this woman is like, this is why she's doing it. There's no ulterior motive. There's nothing. And when you see that, it's hard to say like, it's hard not to go, Jesus, let's help this person. So yeah, very meaningful to just accidentally be brought into that, to the Cat House, because it changed the way I think about a lot of things.
It's interesting for people who have rescued animals.
Yeah.
These different moments where these animals have either come to you or that animal led you to something else.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody can probably attest to that.
Oh, definitely.
Having had my own rescues come through my door and different things that happened. Like one of them, I'd gotten in a minor car accident, but I had to get my car fixed, and then there's a cat.
Right.
So I would have never had that cat, which I ended up having for 15 years.
Right.
Had it not been for me, and it was a drunk driver, and
right.
I, had to go and pay for it myself, but going to that, mechanic, and then like, oh, whose kitten is that in the road, and then
right.
getting it. So different things like that for those of us who have.
Absolutely. I think you're right. And I think it's different from like, when you plan a family or something, like you plan to have, if you plan to have a baby and then you try to have the baby and you have the baby and you raise the baby, that's a different thing for animal people, where in most cases these incredibly important members of your family kind of happen in this happenstance kind of way, like you said, like it could just accidentally, you were in this place at this time, and now this animal's come into your life, and now that animal is like inseparable from your life and as meaningful as any human child would be, and that's another thing that's hard to explain. People get very defensive.
Yes.
How can an animal be like, well, they are. I mean, an animal, people will tell you, and when they die, it's like, it's as traumatic, it's as powerful as when a human being dies. But I do think it's interesting that these key figures in your life sometimes just come out of nowhere,
Right.
Not planned.
Right. Yeah, I've stopped arguing with people. I was at the vet with a cat, and a man stopped, and I thought he was going to remark on how adorable the cat was, but instead he just wanted to argue and say, "Why do you treat this animal like it's so great?" And I was like,
yeah.
Okay, how much time do I give this person?
Right. You don't know. Yeah, you can't. It's impossible to explain to somebody who doesn't know. But those who know.
Right. Right. And so that's a nice, and the same thing about arguing vegetarianism or whatever.
That's right.
I just don't. I find people want to argue it with me, and that's fine, but I don't, I'm not there trying to convert anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, food, it's so interesting. People take food very personally. Food is such a personal thing. It's not just this, it's so wrapped up in people's histories and their families, and it's almost like religion. And so you can't, it's not that you can't challenge them, but it's going to lead, people get very, like protective about that kind of stuff. And I think that, all you can hopefully do is, not necessarily judge. If you just, if you judge somebody, that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is sort of talking people into being open to like opening themselves to the information, at least have the information. Because if you have the information and you are the kind of person that feels like they can make a choice and ease suffering by not eating certain meats or certain foods, then they will do it. And I think there's this huge explosion in the last couple of years of veganism and vegetarianism that you haven't seen before. I mean, all over the world. I mean, it's just in terms of the foods that are available now. This looks like something like the Impossible Burger, which is everywhere.
Right.
You know, you can buy, Beyond Burger at Vons, so where you weren't able to find, vegan food. It's everywhere now, so it's hopeful.
Right. It's interesting that you say that about how food, there's a lot of issues around. I know I'm not a gluten-free person, but I know there are certain people I've met that, man, if they find out someone is a gluten-free person, they want to back it up with all the scientific research, how they should, it's all, nonsense.
Right.
Okay, that's the person's choice. Let them have it, whether,
But see, it's like
celiac,
religion. It's like religion. Again, it's like it's not enough for you to believe what you believe. You must destroy the other person's belief. That's why it has that. That's why food does have that weird sort of quality, which makes it a very delicate subject.
Sure.
But that's why it takes all kinds. I think the direct action people who show screens of slaughterhouses, I mean, that's the most in-your-face kind of stuff that you can do in terms of raising awareness. What I'm trying to do is sort of couch it in an entertainment, because I think that's another way of reaching people. Maybe it's a subversively a way of reaching people. But however the information comes across is good.